Welcome to the Layman Seminary. Today Josh is not with us, and that's because Molly's sick. For those that have been following this series on inductive Bible study, in particular about Greek observation, y'all know Josh. Josh is a seminary student, our former youth minister who's taking Greek 1. And one of the purposes for me doing these videos on this particular topic is to help prepare him or to help strengthen him while he's in a Greek class, to get him engaged in the text and things like that. But as y'all also know, his daughter just had heart surgery, and so she's sick right now, so I ask y'all to keep her in prayers. Now, what's so interesting about YouTube is something called YouTube Analytics. And basically what it tells us is I can go back and look at a video and I can look at audience retention. In other words, I can go back and look at where I lose my audience, where people usually drop off if I mention a certain concept or an idea. And one thing that we found is that whenever we pray, sadly I kind of think it is, but it's the reality of things, it's a different environment, that whenever we pray, people drop off in the video. Whenever we read the text, people drop off in the video. And I think the reason being is because where this is a Sunday school class right now, shifting into the Layman Seminary, probably going to have its own time and its own environment to operate from. The reality is that you viewers out there, y'all are pastors, y'all are teachers, y'all are Sunday school teachers, y'all are Christians wanting to go deeper, and your time is very precious to you. And you don't have time to go through all the stuff as if, you know, asking about prayer requests and finding out how people are doing. And so we realized that. But we didn't want to start off in a non-personal way. We wanted people to understand, okay, this man is in seminary, these are his experiences, this is what he's learning, this is what he's going through, because there's other people in that situation that are going through that as well. However, because the Layman Seminary feels that it can best serve you people, the audience, by getting strictly to the subject at hand, we're going to work on those things. I just want to say that right now. That way, whenever you see in previous videos how we began with prayer, and then this time we're not praying whenever we begin, understand that we've already prayed that God bless this time. And that we're doing this because we want y'all to get the most out of these videos. We want to keep y'all tuned in to what's going on, and so hopefully that will help facilitate that. Now, this series has gotten pretty deep, and I know that just because of the material that we have the content, the type that we're dealing with, that we're going to have some difficulties, that people are going to struggle with this. And that's why I need y'all's feedback. I need y'all to message me, contact me, and say, okay, I would like to know more about this. I need you to make a video about this. I need you to give me information about that. Because what I'm doing right now is I'm gearing everything towards Josh, because Josh is sort of like the representative audience, because there's other people in his situation. He works for the military. He has 3 daughters, one of them sick, and a wife, and all those responsibilities. Just as there's many working pastors around the world who have great responsibilities, people that are bivocational. And so while everything's geared to him, understand that is because I believe that by doing that, it will help people who are in a similar situation as him. But if y'all contact me and go into more detail about these things, then I can be able to make more videos geared specifically to those in the audience in more detail. Now you see a whole lot of color right here. I know this is a mess. Actually what this is we're in Exodus chapter 16 in the Septuagint. The Septuagint being the Greek translation of the Old Testament. These are all verbs. And what I have up here is I have the green ones being the aorist, and I'm going to explain all these terms in a moment. The blue being the present tense, the pink being the perfect, the brown being the future, and this awkward looking color, maybe that's forest green, being the imperfect tense. And so I put all the verbs together so that we could see the changes and emphasis that are going on. And of course, keep in mind that we're doing Greek observation, and more importantly, we're doing it at the first year level. And so my goal is to help Josh to recognize forms and then help him build his understanding of some of these tenses and things like that. But if we were to bring in intermediate Greek, or if we were to bring in how the Greek is interpreting the Hebrew, then that would be a whole nother issue. So keep that in mind. I don't want anybody to take this video and say that this is a definitive video on Exodus 16 in the Greek, because it's not. It's for instructional purposes. Now, also notice that it says 1 through 3, indicative mood only. Okay, so right here you have your moods. Your mood is like your attitude. It's the portrayal reality. Some people say the indicative mood is the mood of fact, or the mood of reality. But actually it's the mood that portrays things as such. In other words, Satan's lies are in the indicative mood because they really happened. But that doesn't mean that they're true. Then you have the subjunctive mood. The subjunctive mood deals with the idea of mood of probability. A lot of times it's with the word that or in order that, which indicates purpose or result. And then once again in 6 through 8 you have an indicative mood again. And then 9 through 10 you have the imperative mood. Imperative we're usually familiar with. That relates to a command. Okay. So by looking at the shifts in mood, even though Josh has only learned the indicative, and he's still learning the indicative, it's important that whenever you're reading the text, you try to find out what mood the text is in. Because there's a shift from the indicative, to the imperative. And there's even this whole idea there's a probability aspect going on here. And so those things are important. Now, I'll go ahead and mention these here, but I got a chart that will display these in a moment. Green, the aorist tense is just simple past or undefined action. It's a snapshot. The blue, we're just going to keep it as a present tense. There's variations of that, but we're just going to keep it for the present tense. The pink, the perfect, Josh hasn't learned yet, but we have talked about it in the videos. This, a lot of times it has past actions with results that carry on from the time that it was spoken. Brown, the future. And then the imperfect is action that's not completed. Like if I said I was studying, that doesn't mean I have finished studying yet. It's just saying that so it relates to the past, but it's kind of like continuous action in the past. And there's categories underneath each one of these. So what you can see here is that you're going to see most of this being the aorist, which is kind of expected. It's a simple past. It's kind of like what's driving the narrative. Focus on that aspect of things. Then you're going to see in the blue a little bit of the present. I actually got the wrong color blue there, but so it's a light color blue. So you have some of that going on. And then you got more future. You probably have more aorist and more future than anything else here. Also notice that this one's supposed to be red, but I got the moods right here where the shifts in moods occur. But like I said, this is just to show you can get a general idea of the mood of the passage. You can see that it's mainly focusing on, well, not the mood, the tense of the passage right here, because we already discussed mood. And we can see that it's mainly using the aorist tense. Okay? So here we are. These are the endings that Josh has learned. These are called your primary active endings. O, A, say, amen, ete, usi. We've talked about that in previous videos. We're not going to deal with these right now. But right here, this is what Josh started learning this week. Josh is having to learn the aorist tense and imperfect endings. And the way that these are formed is you add an augment, this letter E in front of the word lu, for luo. And then the endings are right here. The nu, the sigma, and then the nothing, and then the min, the te, on. So it's very similar to this, except you just added that and you got different endings. And when you learn the aorist, there's two types of aorist. There's first aorist and there's second aorist. Second aorist change their stem. The actual word changes. While the first aorist adds an augment and also the ending, the sa ending, which we'll get to in a minute. Okay. So here's our endings right here, and I color-coded them according to how they'll correspond as what we're looking at earlier. So the present tense is in blue, the future tense is in brown, the imperfect is in that forest green color or whatever color that is, and the aorist active is in green. So when the future, you just add the sigma and everything is the same. And here's the imperfect: eluan, elues, eluin, eluamin, eluate, eluan. And so that's going in the order of I, you, he, she, it, we, y'all, they. Same order. Now here's the aorist, and so what you have is you have the augment added, the e, and then you have the sa endings. So instead of o or on, you have sa. Elusas, elusa, elusas, elusin, elusamin, elusate, elusan. Okay? Nope, wrong one. That's not a touchscreen. This one is. Now this chart right here is a work in progress, but this is kind of inspired from D.A. Black. He talks about that it's very important for us to understand that there's a difference between the time of action and the kind of action. When we're talking about Greek, we're focusing on the kind of action or the aspect. Now you have three types of aspect. You have imperfective, and just think no one's perfect, so it's not completed action. We haven't arrived yet. Then you have the snapshot, just like when you take a picture, it's at a standstill. And then you have the perfective, that's the completed action. And then you have your tenses up here, past, present, and future. Well, the thing is that whenever you're talking about the past, at least for this lesson, we're dealing with the aorist and we're dealing with the imperfect. Well, you can see right here that you have 3 aorists and you have 4 imperfects right there. You have 3 present tense and 3 future tense categories right here. And these are not exhaustive. These are just the ones that Black mentioned, and therefore the ones that Josh will be interacting with a lot. So let me go into a little bit of detail about each one of these. Okay, as I said, the imperfect tense is past action that isn't completed yet. Like I said, I was studying. You have the progressive imperfect, which would be the idea that action that kept on being in past existence. For example, maybe in John chapter 1 when it says, and the Word was with God, the Word was God. The word was there can be taken as kept on being in existence. And so context is what determines these categories. Then you have the customary imperfect. This deals with the habit or the ritual aspect of things. You have the connotative imperfect. This is where you're thinking to do something, but you haven't done it yet. There's a passage in Galatians which illustrates all of these, and maybe next time I will include that. I actually didn't know what direction to go exactly because I didn't know if Josh was going to be here. I kind of assumed he would be, but that's okay. So then you have the inceptive imperfect. Inceptive focuses on the beginning of the action. So a lot of times it will add the word began to the nuance of that. Okay, so going to the aorist, which is your simple past, you have what's called a constative aorist. This is the summary action as a whole. It's not focusing on the time of action. It's just kind of like a summary aspect of things, viewing the action as a whole. Then you have the ingressive aorist, and just like I said before, with the imperfect, this would be translated as began. And then you have the effective aorist, which honestly, I can't remember that category because Black's the only one that I've seen use this term. So give me a second and maybe it'll come back to my mind. Okay, so moving to the present tense, you have your simple present, which is whenever you're writing and you use the present tense. Then you have the progressive present. A lot of people assume that whenever they see a present tense in the Greek, that it's progressive or continuous or habitual or various forms of that. Then you also have the historical present. And this is where the present tense is used for vividness. And a lot of translations will take this and translate it as past tense verb. So now we go to the future. And of course there's the predictive aspect of things. And then there's the what's called the gnomic or maxim, the timeless truth principle. It's just describing things in general. And then there's the imperatible, where the future can be used as a command. And so this right here, like I said, is what I've done. It's not fully representative of everything going on. And also some of these categories could be moved around. But the idea being is that while we're studying Greek, understand that, okay, we have a concept of time in mind, but really it's more about aspect of things. In fact, some people say that the time is only in the indicative mood, and some people say time is not even in the indicative mood. So there's debates about that. Alright, so right here, I have my translation at the bottom. And this is just my initial translation, how I was working through things. So what we have right here, we have Apeiron de ek Eilim. So what we have right here, this looks like the asan ending. So that makes me think I'm dealing with an aorist. And it is an aorist because it's in green. After I put it in green. So I put this, and they departed from Eilim. Then we have Kai Elthoson Pasa Synagogue Weon Israel Este Eremon Sin. Okay? So right here you have your son ending once again. So that's our indication of the aorist, third person plural. And so the way I translated this was, and all the congregation of the sons of Israel went into the wilderness of Sin. So that's how it's actually spelled in the text. I don't think it's focusing on sin like what we're thinking about, but it is coincidental and interesting. Ha estin ana meson alim kai ana meson sina. Alright, so here we have a present tense, estin, he, she, it is. And right here, this is a relative pronoun which is describing the wilderness. And so what we have is which is between the middle of Alim and between the middle of Sinai. So you can see it's the same phrase right then and there. So going on down, we have Te de Pinta Kai de Kate Hemerata Meni To Deutero Ex El Luthoton Aton Ectes Agupto. Thank y'all for being patient with my Greek pronunciation. For those that actually know Greek in the audience, that are very good at that. But anyway, basically what we have here is we got a couple number words we can see right here. Penta, which reminds you of Pentecost. But this is the word for 15. So, and they had departed. So where's our verb? Let's look for it. Okay, this is in pink. So this is a perfect tense. And right here, I kind of tried to translate that as had departed. Not sure if that's right, but that's what came to my mind as I was doing it. So the 15th day, and here's Deutero, which like Deuteronomy, the second giving of the law. Well, this is the second month from them, from Egypt. So out of Egypt. It's kind of like what's going on there. Okay. All right. Diego Gon Gaysin. Let me try that again. Diego Gosin. Let's try that. Because you have a gamma nasal there, which means the first one becomes the N. So, Pasa Synagogue we on Israel Epi Moesen Kai Aaron. Okay, so this is in orange. And what did I make orange? Gotta remember. I think that's my imperfect on here. I used a different color format. Because see, I noticed I say all the congregation began to, it's supposed to be murmur, but I put murmured, against Moses and Aaron. So we see that ending right there, the sin ending, which is for the imperfect. Kai epon pas on pros autois hoi we oi Israel. And so right here you have the aorist again, the pon, the son ending. And the sons of Israel said to them, Aphelon apathanamin plagintes hupa kurio inta agupto. Okay, I don't know if all this is right here, so you might want to look at your translation. But I'm just showing y'all this is, what came to my mind while I was doing it initially. I wasn't even sure I was going to share this, but since Josh is not here, I got to show something. So what we kind of have going on here is I'm taking this to be a question, and I don't know if that's right. I do know there's some questions involved, but you'll know a question mark because it'll have the semicolon, and I don't see it yet. But anyway, let me work through this real quick. Okay, this is aorist tense, and I guess that's an aorist tense because of the color, and that'd be a participle. So, and then that'd be nominative. But anyway, so what we have here, this is kind of like the question Aphelon. It's like, I translated it as "Are we?" I honestly can't remember. In a minute, I'll look at Logos to do that. But so we have, are we to be dead? And this is the word for like smitten. Are we to be dead, smitten? And then you have hupa kuriu. Hupa plus the genitive shows agency. So are we to be dead, smitten by the Lord in the land of Egypt? So I'm assuming that's a question. I haven't seen it yet. So then we see hoton, ekathisamin, epitone, lebeton, tone, crayon. Alright, hotan means when, and then this is the word for set, and there is a samin, which shows that this is an aorist first person plural. And when we set on the kettle of meat, a cauldron of meat, you kind of have that going on right there. So, kai eis theomen artus eis plesomonen. Okay, I'm assuming that this kai is also, it could be and, I don't know. We have the word for eating right here, and also we was eating, so that's imperfect. We were eating bread, and then this is eis, kind of like purpose or goal. So I wrote unto satisfaction. Okay, and then we have hai excel gagete hemas este eramon tatain. And then so this would be that, or in order that, or maybe even a because. That this is from ago, and so it's green that y'all led. So Eris, y'all led us into this wilderness. And then apakitenai pasantan synagogain tates in Nemo. Okay, so you have all of the congregation to die in hunger. So this is the infinitive form, the aorist infinitive form. It's really interesting. If you can remember it this way, the word limo means to hunger. Well, people that drive limos, they don't hunger, but the word for limo is hunger. That helps you remember a word picture in your mind, a contrary word picture actually. Epande kurias pras moisen. All right, so right here, I put it down here. You have the aorist again, and the Lord. This could be but the Lord, but I just kept it in. And the Lord said to Moses. And then you have idu eku, that'd be huo, humin, hutars, artus, ektu uranu. And the Lord said to Moses, behold, I am raining, present tense, bread from heaven. Okay? So God is the first one that made it rain. Literally and metaphorically. Kai ex elusete ha leos. And the people will come out. So this is actually, why would I translate? That's not I must have saw this sigma and thought, well, that must be a future. But it's orange, so it must be an imperfect. However, I don't know. Honestly, guys, I'm going to go with the color, and if I'm wrong, we'll check it in Logos in a minute. So I'm going to assume that this is an imperfect. I'm going to assume that this is the augment, but it has a middle passive ending, which we haven't talked about yet. my sai tai. This looks like the se. So, okay. It could be aorist, actually. So, I don't know about that particular form. And but anyway, and the people will come out. That's how I took it. But I don't think that's right now, looking at it. Kai sulek susin tates hemeras es hemeron. And so I have this right here, and they will gather of the day for a day. You know what? That's not orange. It's the camera angle. That's brown. And so, okay, the sigma indicating the future, and this was a sigma as well, but it turned into a kasi. So, and they will gather of the day for the day. Not sure how to translate that, but you have the day for the day. So, that's what I have there. Then you have hupos, peraso, autus. And so this is kind of like in order that, the peraso means test, in order that I may test him. A porosontai tod nama mu a u. So this is a as in if, and this word can be continue. I translate it as walk because of the Hebrew idea behind it. If they will walk my law or not. So, or whether they will walk my law or not. So he's saying he's testing them to see if they will obey his word or not. Kai estai te hemerate ekte. And so this is future. And it will be on the 6th day. That color really looks orange. But anyway, it's brown. And it will be on the 6th day. So there's your future tense. He, she, it will be. Kai etoimasusin. And so this is from etemazo, which means to prepare. Future tense, the sigma right there. And they will prepare. Okay. Ha eon es in a inkosin. Alright. So this is kind of like a relative pronoun. And then this is like if, so whatever perhaps, and then this is the subjunctive, eon plus the subjunctive, the O lengthened right there, so instead of amen you have omen, so whatever perhaps they may gather is what I came up with there. Kai estai diplum, and so, and it will be, once again, diplo, twofold. You have heard the term diplo. Well, this is where the Greek behind it is. Let's see. Haion synagososin takathos hemeron es hemeron. So once again, whatever perhaps in synagososin, earlier synagogo referred to the congregation. Here we're talking about they gather, and whatever perhaps they may gather, so still constative aorist, according to the day for a day, is what I have there. I'm not sure if it's right. Kai epin Moises kai Aaron pras pasan synagogue we on Israel. And my spelling's all bad, but and Moses and Aaron said to all the synagogue of Israel. It's kind of what we got going on there. There's our aorist tense. He, she, it said. And then we have Esperas gnoskiste. So this will, I added the word there here. I think this is what's going on here. Our future tense, you all will, I put no. I mean, be there. I'm from Ganao. Okay, yeah, that's right. Y'all will be there. It will be, it's probably, it will, no, it's y'all because of that. Will be there until evening. So it's talking about the manna being there till evening. Hadi kurias xa gagenya humas ekte agaptu gaze agaptu. So because the Lord led you from the land of Egypt. Alright. Kai pro e office tain doxane kuriu. And early in the day, so I took that, you will see the glory of the Lord. Into es akusai tan gan gusman humon epitateu. I wrote into here because I see that, but it's probably listen or maybe a beer. Into here, you're grumbling against God. Now this is really getting tough here. So I want to stop right here and look at this. All right. Sai, my side tie. So that would be he hears. All right. And then, wow. This is grumbling. You're grumbling. This would be against God. And to hear that you're grumbling against God. I think it would be, I don't understand what the in toe thing is doing right here. Maybe this is an infinitive form, and so that's what might be throwing me off. But into here, maybe maybe it's because I don't want to mess that up. So we'll come back to that in a minute. Hemeste te esmin, and we will be what is you. So we have we and we. As men, we will be, and then what or why? Kind of idiomatically there, I'm assuming. Then you have hadidia gangusate kata hemon. So there's your question. All the way down here, there's this question. And what I was having a difficulty with whenever I was translation is, when does that question come in? And part of that is because I already know the text, related to the English and stuff like that. But the Greek doesn't reflect everything the way the English does, because it's already been polished in the translation. So that's probably going to put me off somewhere. But and that you complain against us. Basically, what it's saying is, who are we to you? Why are you complaining against us? And Moses said, oh, sorry, I got to read that in Greek. Kai epim Moises, into didonte kurion humin esperas crea. So basically what you have here, you have the into thing again. So in the giving the Lord to you the evening meat. So I took that as like when you have an article with the infinitive that indicates purpose, in order for the Lord to give you evening meat. Vegain kai artosta pro oi, ace pleso monain. To eat and bread in the early unto satisfaction. Okay. Dieta es acuse kurianton gangusman humon. So like earlier. And so dia took us on account, the Lord listen. And the reason I've done it this way is because even though this is the accusative, which would be the direct object, this is what's called the subject of the infinitive. On account of the Lord listen, which will probably clear up the previous one that we were having trouble with in a minute. And the Lord listened, and I didn't even finish the sentence, but it's, and the Lord listened to your grumbling, or perhaps heard your grumbling. Hon humes dia gon gusate kata hemon. So here's your relative pronoun, whom you grumble against us. Okay. So basically, I don't know whom would you grumble. Basically saying God has heard your complaining about how you grumbled against us. Kind of like the idea there. Hemeste te esmin. And we are what to you? There's your question mark again. He's basically saying, why are y'all being mad at me? You're really against God whenever you're against us. Ugar kath hemon ha gangusmas humon estin. Okay, so for the one grumbling, where'd it go? For the one grumbling, so here's your is not against us. Ala te kata tu teu, but even, but I'm not sure how that's working right there. But even against God. Epinde Moises pros Aaron, and Moses said to Aaron. So there's your aorist. Apon. This is the aorist form, but this is the command. Speak to all the synagogue of Israel, or the congregation of Israel, of the sons of Israel. Pros el thate in antion tu theu. So you come against, right here, anti God. So they're basically coming against God. Ace ake koakin. So here's your perfect. For he has heard your grumbling, is what's going on there. 10. Enika de elale Aaron pases synagogue we on Israel. Alright, so you have this word for, let's see, whenever Aaron was speaking, right there you have the augment, and then you have the a ending, which is indicating that we're dealing with the imperfect, was speaking to all the congregation of the sons of Israel. Kai ep estra thesan esta emeron. And they were turned from epistrepho, looks like. They were turned into the wilderness. Kai he daxa kuriu afthe in Nephle. And the glory of the Lord appeared. Ophthe. I wonder if that's from Phanereo. But anyway, in a cloud. Kai elalesin kurias pros moisin legon. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying. So there you have your aorist. You have the augment, and then you have the sin ending, the sa ending, but it comes off as a sin. And then it's saying, this is, in Greek it's called a redundant participle, but actually in the Hebrew this is an infinitive, lemor, a lot of times, it is indicating the discourse, or the talking that's going to come next. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, of course it's present active participle there, present tense. Ace akekoa, so we have a perfect tense again. Ton gangusman ton we on Israel. Listen to the grumbling of the sons of Israel. Leloson, so here's the command for speak. Pros atus legon, speak to them saying, so once again you're redundant. Ta pros esperon edeste crea. Alright, so to or towards that evening you will, and then you will eat meat. There's your future tense. Okay, kaita pro-e placete sete steth, actually, our tone. Okay, right here in the morning, and then when you have theta, eta, sigma right there, that indicates a future passive, and so you will be satisfied of bread. Kai gnosis de hati ego kurias ha theos hemon. Okay, and you will know that I am the Lord, and then you hamon, your God. Okay, so that phrase again, I am and the Lord, all together. Agenata de espera, and it became evening. All right. Kai anabe, or two ometra, and this word doesn't mean quail, at least from what I saw in the lexicon. It means migrating birds that came with the quails. So that's why I have, and birds migrating with quails went up on a bay. Kai Kalusin Tain Para Imbolain. So this is covered right here. This is the aorist because of the augment, and then the sin ending, but it changed because of that. Just like the future tense, whenever the sigma is combined with certain words, it turns into those. So, and it covered the encampment. Ta proi aginata kata ap aromines tu drosu kuklu tes para imboles kai idu epi prosopon tes eramu. Okay. And in the morning, it became, and then this is a participle. So this is kind of like ceasing, pa'ao, but ceasing, and then this is the word for do. Draw su sounds like do. And then this is the word for circling, and this is an encampment. So, and in the morning, ceasing the do, it came circling the encampment. In this one, I would say, and I'm not sure if this is right, perhaps this is the article coming off of there, but I don't think so. So perhaps this is an adverbial. And in the morning, when the dew ceased, after the dew ceasing, it came circling the encampment. Now let me look at this word for it came. Where am I getting that from? Right here, aginata, he, she, it came. So it's referring to the group of the flock. It's circling the encampment. Kaidu epi prosopontes emeru. And behold, on the surface or face of the wilderness. Okay, so we have that right there. Lepton, Jose, Corion, Lucan, Jose, Fagos, Epites case. So this is the word for like coriander seed. Fine as coriander seed. That's white also. As set. I think that's set. Lepton upon the land. Okay, you got some similar word forms here. I think this is I'll just leave it at that because I'm not seeing what I need to see there. Idantes de atu tawiu Israel upon heteros to heterotis estin tuta. Okay, this is the participle form, aorist. And seeing it, the sons of Israel said, and this is heteros ta hetero, said one to another, what is this? So that's where the word manna came from. So in Greek, manna is te estin tuta. In Hebrew, it's manna. So ugar edesan te ain. Okay, and so right here, for they did not know what it was. So there's your imperfect right there. Epinde Moises pras artus hutas ha artas. And Moses said to them, this, and I added this in here, this is the bread. Hon edokin kurias humin fagain. Okay? Which, there's your relative pronoun, the Lord, I don't know why I said was given, it's just gave, because that's the aorist tense, gave to us to eat. No, to you to eat, not to us. The difference being is when you have your pronoun, if it was an eta right there, it would be to us, but that's you, so who. Okay? Tutata rhema. This is the word. You've heard people use the term rhema word. This is the word. Ha sunat taken kurios, which, another relative pronoun, the Lord charged. So there's your aorist again. Synagogate atu ekastas estus kat kontas. So this is the word for gather. It's plural, so y'all gather from every house, I think that's how I have it, or dwelling. I don't know. Sounds kind of weird. But every house that you're dwelling in. Not sure how to deal with this. I believe this is a participle though, or it's actually. Oh, the blue are in adjectives. That's right. I forgot to mention that. The blue are adjectives. Okay. Gomar kata kefle kata arthimon sukon human ekasta suntois suskeni ois humon sulelexete. Now, as you see, there's no translation up there, so I'm just going to do my best to go shoot from the hip, and we'll see how it goes. As y'all see, Septuagint Greek is pretty challenging. Alright, so Gomor. I don't know that word. And then Kefle. Kefle is head. According to the head and according to the Aristomen. I don't know that word. And then Sukon. That sounds like life or soul. Your soul. And then this is every. According to every soul. You. Ooh, boy, it got tough. Alright, we're skipping that one. Epoisin de utas had wiu Israel. Okay, so the first thing we do is we find our verb. Well, our verb is right there, aorist tense. We see the augment, we see the son ending, and so that indicates that. So, and poieo means to do or to make. And they were making this, the sons of Israel. So here's actually the subject. And so remember, you find your verb first, then your nominative, and then you find your object. So, the sons of Israel, so this is sons nominative, were making or were doing this. And Sunail Geksan. Well, I see that that's an aorist, but I don't know that word. Hata palu kaita elaptan. Okay? I see a couple things I recognize, but still don't know all the words here. I'm just going to skip that one. I'll butcher it. Kai metre santes to gomor. Okay, this is an aorist participle. And metre. Don't know that word either. Well, the words are getting very tough. And so I'm not going to butcher it any further. I mean, it's getting tough. And I mean, if I had time to work through it, I might be able to figure out some of them. Like there's here and again down there. But so y'all know the story, right? Basically, the Israelites have been led out of the wilderness. I mean, they've been led into the wilderness after being delivered from Egypt. And they're complaining again. They're complaining at first with the manna issue. God provides that, and then they complain about that. So God sends quail and or something associated with quail. And then whenever they eat of this meat, they get struck down dead by God as a discipline measure. So the principal application is that these people were complaining against Moses and Aaron. They were rejecting the leadership that God had entrusted them with. And the reality is because delegation, because they're God's representatives, they were actually complaining against God. And that's a constant reminder that whenever we are submitting to leadership, church authority, the pastor, the deacons, all of that stuff, that we're actually submitting to God. And that's very important to recognize so that we don't become resentful or burnt out or things like that, because we have to remember we're working for the Lord. And no matter what job you do, whether you're in vocational ministry or whether you're bivocational, have several jobs and things like that, you have to remember that we're working for God ultimately, because God is the one that determines the job that we have. God is the one that determines what place we are in our life and things like that. So our responsibility is to humbly submit to that and to even pray for our leaders and support them in those situations. Now, I think what's important to see, though, is while it's true that the leaders should be respected, be submitted to, leaders also should recognize the capacity of immature believers. I believe that the generation that came across the Red Sea were believers. I even believe that most of them were believers before they ever put the blood on the door. But regardless of all that, the issue here is that they're immature. And in 1 Corinthians chapter 10, it makes a comparison. It talks about it's just as they were all baptized into Moses. In other words, identify with Moses. They went across the Red Sea. It talks about they were fed by the same provision and all of this imagery. And he's telling the Corinthian church this because he's saying, I don't want you to crave after these things. I don't want you to lust after these things. And as some of them did, falling down in the wilderness. And so it's a warning, because one of the things that was happening in Corinth is everybody was, well, there were certain groups claiming to be certain teachers. I'm a Paul, I'm Apollos, and all of that. And then people were getting caught up in the issues concerning the gifts and not showing love and things like that. But ultimately, at some level, all of it related to being against God. So whenever a person goes against a man of God or even a woman of God, they are going against God. And so that's very important for us to recognize. But at the same time, the leader must recognize that unbelieving people, right? People that are unbelievers are indistinguishable from believers whenever a believer is acting carnal. Because Paul said, he told them that they were saints in the first chapter. And then he says, I wanted to come to you spiritual, but I can't because you're carnal, you're worldly. And so he deals with them on that level. Because what happens is if a leader does not recognize that the people that he's dealing with are saved, but they're carnal, then he's going to deal with them in a certain way. I mean, if you think that your audience is lost, you're going to give the gospel, right? But what if you misdiagnose the problem? What if you think all this person needs is to be saved and that they're going to be living right? But actually what they needed to do was they needed to be reminded of the gospel, but they needed to be challenged by the gospel, not to cause them to doubt their salvation, but to recognize, as Peter says, whenever they act like this, they become short-sighted, having forgotten that their sins have been forgiven. In other words, whenever you encounter someone that's carnal, the solution is not for you to cause them to doubt their salvation, because salvation is based off on Christ's finished work at the cross. It's believing in the right object, having the right requirement. But what they need to understand, and what we need to understand, is just remember what Christ did at the cross. Understand the positional truths that we receive, that He's taken us from the kingdom of darkness and to put us in the marvelous light. The concepts of redemption, sanctification, these aspects of things. Because that's how a person is built up. That's how their identity is built up. Because as one person said, they've been identified as being a caterpillar so long that they don't know what it's like to fly as a butterfly. And then you have the other extreme of where people who recognize their new freedom in Christ, but they don't want to accept the new responsibility. And so that's immaturity. So the leader and both the person, the audience, are responsible to grow. But in this passage, the emphasis is on your rejection of the leadership of God. I mean, just imagine you just went through all these miraculous plagues and you saw the Red Sea split. How can you doubt that this person was in charge by God? And they probably didn't doubt, And later on in the story, they kind of do. And there are times when people challenge that and say, well, I can lead too. Perhaps that was going on later on in the story. But the issue is that they did not understand that they were the representative of God. And it's kind of weird that they didn't understand this because they just came out of Egypt. And Pharaoh's, people say, well, Pharaoh viewed himself as God. That's true, but it was viewed through the concept of representation. He was the representative of God on earth. And it went to his head, and a lot of them actually did think that they were God. And so I think it's important to recognize that sometimes unbelievers, let me clarify, because they're acting like unbelievers, but they're believers in my view. Sometimes believers act like unbelievers, even to the point of criticizing leadership and spiritual authority and things like that, because they don't see the connection between God and the spiritual authority. A manifestation of this in our today's world is people that don't want to go to church but want to have a relationship with God. Don't want to be active in the church, don't want to be a member, don't want to serve, but yet they say they have a relationship with God. But they don't recognize that by rejecting the authority that God has put in place, the pastors, the teachers, the evangelists, the people that are functioning in that office today with certain gifts, they're actually rejecting God. And so it's up to the leaders to deal with them. Now, what's so interesting about Moses, it says that he was one of the most humble persons on earth. And having to deal with all this stuff, and don't get me wrong, he did lose it a couple times. And one time caused him from going into the promised land, which shows the promised land wasn't heaven. It was related to rewards or blessings or benefits. So in application, what we see from this is while this passage is emphasizing don't go against the leadership of God or there could be dangerous consequences, we also recognize that the leader can look back on this and learn from how Moses' situation, God's viewpoint of it, and that these people were viewed as believers. And that's what Paul does. Paul takes it from that perspective and brings that warning to the people. So with that being said, the challenge for today is, I know it was probably boring to some of y'all for me to read the Greek and chop it up the way I did, but hope y'all got something out of this. If not, you can fast forward to the application part. But the challenge is for us to pray for our leaders, to support our leaders, and at the same time, to help other people grow up, whether it's ourselves or for others, so that we don't fall into that trap, because it's very easy for bitterness to spring up. And that's what the book of Hebrews deals with. So I guess I can close out in prayer. I already got you this long, so if I lose y'all at the end, so be it. Father God, we thank you so much for this time, Lord. I just pray that this video, if it has not touched on what these people need, Lord, I just pray that you will cause them to ask questions, to get clarification, to ask for resources, Lord, so that this video can help them get in the direction they want. Lord, I pray that as when Josh and I review this video, that any questions he has or any concepts that come up, Lord, that they will help in the process to improve the next video. Thank you for being in control of everything that's going on in our lives. Even when we don't understand it, we trust in you. You're the one that made the way through the Red Sea, and you will lead us through the wilderness. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. God bless. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and all that good stuff. And keep us in prayer. Thank you. God bless.